History of carpentry. From the very earliest time, wood has been available to men, and due to its relative ease of use, coupled with men's need for housing and shelter, plus furnitures, bridges, decking, and many other devices for day-to-day life of a carpentry, and carpenters were born. We can reasonably assume that carpenter working with wood was one of the ancient men's first occupation, and therefore the trade of carpentry is the ancient of trades. Introduction. Wood is one of mankind's oldest building materials. The ability to shape wood improved with technological advances from the Stone Age to the Bronze Age and to the Iron Age. The first carpenters were the inventors and the user of woodworking tools. We can reasonably assume that carpenter working with wood was one of the ancient men's occupation. The history of carpentry and carpenter has been traced back to 8000 BC when stone axes were used to construct shelters. Now, let us study the big developments in carpentry. By the 16th century, sawmills were created which established the lumber industry. Once log could be cut into lumber and housing carpentry were changed forever. In the 18th century, the Industrial Revolution brought steam engines and cut nails. Carpenters no longer had to rely on the slow and tedious process of handmade nails. With the Industrial Revolution, old-fashioned timber framing began to lose its appeal, so began the more modern methods of framing carpentry that led to what we use today. What carpentry is today? Carpentry is one of the oldest skilled trades that is still used today. Today, carpentry consists of much more than just framing houses. Carpenters can now also be responsible for cabinet making, furniture building, and other finer trades. While today, new technology may add speed to carpentry tasks, the way that techniques are passed down has remained the same for hundreds of years. The carpentry trade is taught through specialty courses that give on-the-job type training. How carpentry emerged? Early age. Wood does not stand the test of time very well, but there are existing structures from the 7th century. There is also evidences of stone and wood structure from ancient Greece. Carpentry evolved as tool evolved, with skill becoming more fine and the carpenter become a trade of renown. Many historical and contemporary carpenters are considered artisans surpassing functional skill and level to create woodwork of unique beauty. Middle Age. As the history of carpentry unfolded, it is found that carpenters coming together in 1271 to form an organization bound by their common profession. Eventually, a carpenter union was formed in 1881. In later years, it became a strong voice in supporting legislation to establish a 8-hour workday. Learning through experiences, carpenter historically took either a son or a young man to pass on their knowledge. Essentially, skill set the carpenter apart from other trades, using the three primary tools of carpentry, that is hedge, saw, and the plane, to build a structure of wood. Recent period. Technology adds to certain carpentry tasks, but the carpenter expertise is still locked to the basic of building and shaping wood. The history of carpentry is created by unbroken chains of transferred knowledge and experiences. The carpentry trade grew under the tradition of eventual advancement to what we now call journeyman status. In this lecture, we studied how carpentry emerged from early age to recent period. Thank you. See you in the next lecture.